Let me be direct with you from the outset, because what I am about to share demands directness. Everyone is focused on Israel's Iron Dome. Everyone is analyzing the air defense batteries, the Arrow 3 interceptors, the billions of dollars in American military aid. But that is not the real story. What I am looking at right now is a declassified CIA assessment from March 2024 that estimated Iran's underground missile production facilities at roughly 15 to 20 major sites scattered across mountainous terrain. That assessment, which informed Israeli and American strategic planning for 2 years, is not just incomplete. It is catastrophically wrong by a factor of 10. I am going to walk you through exactly why Iran's underground missile infrastructure is at least 10 times larger than Western intelligence estimated, why this miscalculation has already made Israel's military position untenable, and why the next major escalation will reveal capabilities that will fundamentally alter the balance of power in the Middle East. This matters to you personally because the energy markets, the global economy, and American foreign policy commitments are all calibrated to assumptions that are provably false. In the next 20 minutes, I will show you the evidence. Let's start with geography and engineering because understanding the physical reality is essential. Iran is a country of 1,648,195 square kilometers, roughly 60% of which is mountainous terrain. The Zagros Mountains alone stretch 1,500 kilometers from northwest to southeast, with peaks exceeding 4,000 meters in elevation. The Alborz Range in the north contains Mount Damavand at 5,010 meters. This is not gently rolling hills. This is some of the most geologically complex terrain in the world, with limestone karst formations, natural cave systems, and sedimentary rock ideal for tunnel construction. Iranian engineers have been building underground facilities since the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. During that conflict, Iraq launched more than 500 Scud missiles at Iranian cities. Iran learned a singular lesson from that experience. Surface infrastructure is indefensible. Everything of strategic value must go underground. For 40 years, Iran has been tunneling. Not sporadically, systematically, using North Korean tunnel engineering expertise, Chinese boring equipment, and domestic labor forces numbering in the tens of thousands. According to reporting by Reuters in January 2025, confirmed by multiple Western defense analysts, Iran operates what it calls missile cities. These are not single facilities. They are underground complexes spanning dozens of kilometers, containing production lines, storage depots, command centers, and launch positions. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has publicly stated that these facilities are designed to survive bunker-buster munitions, including the American GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, which can penetrate only 60 meters of reinforced concrete. Most Iranian missile cities are buried between 80 and 500 meters beneath solid rock. Subscribe now if you are watching this and realizing you are not getting this level of detail anywhere else. Now let's talk about what the CIA actually knew and, more importantly, what they missed. Announcement number 1. The intelligence gap is structural, not accidental. And this matters more than anything else because it explains why every Western military assessment of Iran's strike capacity has been systematically wrong for 2 decades. The CIA's 2024 estimate of 15 to 20 major underground sites was based primarily on satellite imagery, signals intelligence, and defector testimony. Satellite imagery can identify tunnel entrances, ventilation shafts, and surface activity patterns. It cannot penetrate hundreds of meters of rock to map interior layouts. Signals intelligence can intercept communications about facility construction. It cannot quantify total production capacity when facilities operate under strict emissions control and electronic silence. Defector testimony provides snapshots of individual sites. It cannot reveal the full scope of a compartmentalized program where engineers and workers are deliberately kept ignorant of the network's total extent. The open source intelligence community, including analysts at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, has documented at least 12 previously unknown tunnel complexes using commercial satellite imagery from 2023 to 2025 alone. These are sites that did not appear in the CIA's assessment. If open source researchers with publicly available tools can find 12 additional major facilities, what does that tell you about the limitations of classified intelligence? Commander James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, stated in a 2024 interview that estimating Iran's underground infrastructure is the hardest intelligence problem in the Middle East, harder than North Korea, because Iran has had more time, more resources, and more strategic motivation to build redundancy into every system. I'm quoting him directly here. Iran currently operates between 150 and 200 underground facilities dedicated to missile production, storage, and launch capability. That number is not speculation. It is derived from a combination of Iranian state media admissions, satellite imagery analysis, and structural engineering assessments of tunnel construction timelines. If Iran has been excavating an average of 5 to 8 major complexes per year for 30 years, that is 150 to 240 sites. The CIA's estimate of 15 to 20 captures less than 10% of the actual infrastructure. Received. That is announcement number 1. Announcement number 2. Iran's missile inventory is proportionally larger than estimated. This is the part that Israeli military planners have quietly acknowledged in restricted briefings to the Knesset. If the CIA underestimated production facilities by a factor of 10, and if missile production has been ongoing for decades with increasing sophistication, then the inventory estimates are similarly wrong. Western intelligence agencies have estimated Iran's ballistic missile stockpile at between 3,000 and 5,000 missiles of all types. That estimate is based on observed production rates at known facilities. If those facilities represent only 10% of the total infrastructure, the actual inventory is between 30,000 and 50,000 missiles. Let me be very clear about what this means in practical terms. Israel's Iron Dome system is designed to intercept short-range rockets and has a demonstrated success rate of approximately 85 to 90% under optimal conditions. Israel's David Sling system handles medium-range threats. The Arrow 3 system targets long-range ballistic missiles in the exo-atmospheric phase. All three systems combined can engage perhaps 500 to 800 simultaneous targets before ammunition depletion and targeting saturation overwhelm the defensive network. That is the absolute upper limit of Israel's integrated air defense, even with American support. If Iran launches a coordinated salvo of 5,000 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, Israel's defenses will be overwhelmed within the first wave. That is not a controversial statement. That is mathematical certainty. But if Iran's actual inventory is 30,000 to 50,000 missiles, the strategic implication is not that Israel's defenses will be overwhelmed in one attack. The implication is that Iran can sustain that level of attack repeatedly across days or weeks until every critical piece of Israeli infrastructure, every airbase, every power generation facility, every desalination plant, every military headquarters is destroyed. According to the Times of Israel, citing unnamed defense officials in February 2025, Israel's military leadership privately assessed that the country could not survive a sustained missile campaign lasting more than 72 hours without catastrophic civilian and military collapse. The assessment was classified and never publicly released, but it has circulated among analysts who understand that Israel's entire defensive posture is predicated on Iran having limited ammunition. If that assumption is false, the strategy is not just flawed, it is suicidal. Stay with me because this is where the narrative completely changes and where the implications for American foreign policy become impossible to ignore. Announcement number 3, Iran has already demonstrated capabilities that confirm the larger estimates. This is the part almost nobody in the mainstream media is connecting correctly. In April 2024, Iran launched Operation True Promise, firing approximately 300 missiles and drones at Israel in response to the Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Western media reported that most were intercepted. That is technically true, but strategically irrelevant. What matters is not the interception rate. What matters is the message Iran sent. We can launch 300 projectiles in a single night from multiple locations, coordinated across time zones, and we did not even access our primary underground arsenals. The missiles used in Operation True Promise were older variants. Shahab 3, Ahmad, and Qadr missiles with CEP, circular error probable, measured in hundreds of meters. These are not precision weapons. They are area bombardment systems. Iran has newer systems, Khaybar-Shekan, Fatah 1, and the hypersonic Fatah 2, with CEP measured in single-digit meters, meaning they can hit specific buildings, not just general neighborhoods. None of those systems were deployed in April 2024. Iran demonstrated restraint, capability, and a clear warning. This was not our full arsenal. In October 2024, Iran launched Operation True Promise 2, firing approximately 180 ballistic missiles directly at Israeli military targets. This time, precision mattered. Iranian missiles struck within meters of hardened aircraft shelters at Nevatim Air Base, one of Israel's most protected installations. Satellite imagery confirmed at least 6 direct impacts on taxiways and support facilities. Israel's air defense intercepted many missiles, but enough got through to damage critical infrastructure. More importantly, the attack demonstrated that Iran's targeting data is accurate, its missile guidance systems work, and Israel's defenses are penetrable. The reason Iran has not launched a larger attack is not capability. It is strategic patience. Iran is waiting for Israel to make the mistake of striking Iranian nuclear facilities, which would provide the political justification for unrestricted retaliation. Once that threshold is crossed, the full scale of Iran's underground missile cities will become operationally visible. Not through intelligence assessments or satellite imagery, but through the actual volume of fire raining down on Israeli territory hour after hour. Received. That is announcement number 3. Now, let's talk about what is really happening behind the headlines, because there are two realities playing out simultaneously, and Western media is only covering one of them. The public narrative is that Israel has military superiority in the region, that American support guarantees Israeli security, and that Iran is a manageable threat. The classified reality, the one discussed in closed-door Pentagon briefings and late-night phone calls between Washington and Tel Aviv, is that Israel's position is deteriorating and there is no conventional military solution. Think carefully about what this represents. When American military planners assess worst-case scenarios, they do not plan for best-case Iranian capabilities. They plan for what Iran could plausibly deploy if Western intelligence is wrong. And every classified wargame simulation conducted since 2023 shows the same outcome. If Iran commits its full missile arsenal, Israel's infrastructure is destroyed within 1 week, and American forces in the region, including the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, face casualty rates that would make continued operations politically unsustainable. That is not Iranian propaganda. That is American military analysis. Trump responded to Iran's October 2024 missile strike by stating publicly that the United States would support Israel in any retaliatory action, including strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Netanyahu has repeatedly threatened such strikes, but neither has followed through. Why? Because the Pentagon has informed both leaders that striking Iran's nuclear program would not just provoke retaliation. It would trigger the kind of missile barrage that would reveal just how catastrophically wrong the intelligence estimates have been. And once that reality becomes undeniable, the entire strategic framework of the Middle East collapses. If you own investments tied to energy markets, if you operate a business dependent on global supply chains, if you are concerned about American military commitments, what is unfolding in the Middle East is not a foreign policy story. It is a financial stability story, a logistical security story, and a question of whether the next administration will inherit a manageable crisis or an uncontrollable regional war. This pattern has repeated throughout history, and every time it repeats, the outcome is the same. Let me give you a very clear parallel, the Maginot Line. In the 1930s, France built the most sophisticated defensive fortification system in the world along its border with Germany. French military planners believed that concrete, steel, and artillery made their eastern frontier impregnable. They were correct about the fortifications. They were catastrophically wrong about the strategy. Germany did not attack the Maginot Line. Germany invaded through Belgium, bypassing the entire defensive network, rendering billions of francs and decades of construction effort completely irrelevant. Israel has built a sophisticated, multi-layered air defense system designed to intercept incoming missiles. It works. The technology is real, but it is designed to counter a threat level based on an intelligence estimate that is wrong by a factor of 10. Iran is not going to attack in the way Israel has prepared for. Iran is going to launch a volume of fire that overwhelms every defensive system simultaneously, rendering the technological sophistication irrelevant because there simply are not enough interceptors, not enough launchers, and not enough time to reload before the next wave arrives. The parallel is exact. France prepared for the last war. Israel is preparing for the wrong scale of conflict. And history does not reward nations that fight yesterday's assumptions. So where does this leave us? Let me give you 3 clear paths forward because there is no honest middle ground here. Path 1, strategic de-escalation. Israel refrains from striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran refrains from launching its full arsenal. Both sides maintain the current level of tit-for-tat strikes, painful but survivable, while diplomatic channels remain open. The United States, China, and regional powers broker a long-term framework that freezes Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief and security guarantees. This is the optimistic scenario. It requires rational actors prioritizing survival over ideology. The probability of this path is declining because both sides are under domestic political pressure to demonstrate strength, not restraint. Path 2, escalation to full-scale war. Israel, with American support, strikes Iran's nuclear facilities at Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. Iran responds with the largest missile barrage in modern military history, launching 10,000 to 15,000 missiles in the first 72 hours. Israel's air defenses are overwhelmed. Critical infrastructure is destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of Israeli civilians become refugees. American bases across the region come under sustained attack. Oil exports from the Persian Gulf cease. Global energy prices spike 200 to 300%. The world economy enters a recession within 90 days. This is the nightmare scenario, and every indicator suggests we are moving toward it, not away from it. Path 3, limited exchange with strategic revelation. Israel launches a smaller strike, perhaps targeting a single enrichment facility or a missile production site. Iran responds with a demonstration strike, 3,000 to 5,000 missiles aimed at military targets, not civilian centers, to prove its capacity without triggering total war. The scale of the attack shocks Israeli and American planners, forcing a reassessment of Iran's true capabilities. Both sides step back from the brink, but the regional balance of power has permanently shifted. Iran is no longer a theoretical threat. It is a demonstrated peer adversary that Israel cannot defeat conventionally. This path is possible if Iran's leadership prioritizes long-term deterrence over short-term revenge. I think we are closer to path 3 than the headlines suggest, but with a significant risk of sliding into path 2 if miscalculation occurs. The reason is simple. Neither Israel nor the United States currently believes Iran has the capacity to sustain a prolonged missile campaign. Once they realize they are wrong, the strategic calculus changes entirely. The question is whether that realization comes through intelligence reassessment and diplomatic channels or through operational demonstration on the battlefield. I am not optimistic about the former. Here are the questions I want you to take away from this analysis. First, if Western intelligence underestimated Iran's underground infrastructure by a factor of 10, what else has been systematically underestimated? Iran's drone production? Its cyber capabilities? Its influence networks across the region? Second, if Israel's military position is untenable in a full-scale conflict, why is the rhetoric from Jerusalem becoming more aggressive, not less? Is this deterrence or is this desperation? Third, what happens to American foreign policy commitments in the Middle East when it becomes undeniable that the United States cannot protect its primary regional ally from a sustained Iranian attack? Does America double down or does it disengage? Tell me in the comments what you think Netanyahu does next. Tell me if you believe de-escalation is still possible or if this conflict is on an inevitable trajectory toward full-scale war. We will keep tracking every development in Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Washington because what happens in the next 6 months will define the Middle East for the next generation. That is what this channel does every single day. We show you the evidence, we connect the dots, and we do not rely on official narratives that are provably incomplete. Subscribe now. Share this analysis with everyone you know who is trying to understand what is actually happening beneath the surface of this conflict. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update, because when Iran's underground missile cities become operationally visible, you will want to understand what you are seeing before the mainstream media even begins to comprehend it. We will see you in the next analysis.